Hello, leaders. Thank you for tuning in to yet another installment of the LabLeaderCoach.com. Today, I will be discussing trust. We all know how important trust is, but have you ever taken a deeper dive to really understand where trust comes from? Additionally, do you have the tools in your toolbox to truly know how to rebuild trust when it's broken? And finally, I will be discussing how communication impacts trust with some additional recommendations that I've found effective in keeping trust alive in teams. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen. Great, and I will pull up the presentation. Perfect. All right, building trust, what it is, how it impacts everything, and how to rebuild. Here are the objectives for today's information. Describe what trust is and why it is so fragile. Identify proven strategies on how to rebuild broken trust, and use these strategies to improve team performance and ensure meaningful personal relationships. And when I say meaningful personal relationships, I mean both inside and outside of work. So what exactly is trust? I will be referencing a lot of today's information from the Stephen M.R. Covey book, The Speed of Trust, the One Thing That Changes Everything. If you've not heard of Stephen M.R. Covey, I'm sure you've probably heard of his father, Stephen R. Covey, who wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and the 8th Habit. It is no doubt that his son, Stephen M.R., would also grow up to become highly effective and an influential person. In his book, Covey describes trust as a function of 2 things, character and competence. While character is a constant, competence is situational. A great example of this might be within your team. You may have a coworker who might be less than confident in his skills. Perhaps he's a new graduate, but he shows up every day, he gets along well with everyone, and he's eager to learn. This is a person with great constant character with an opportunity to improve his competence. He may be a great mechanic in his off-duty hours, but in the lab situation, he's still building his skills. On the other hand, we have all probably worked with someone who is very knowledgeable in laboratory medicine, but she might take long breaks, gossip about her coworkers, and say disparaging remarks about her boss or the decisions of her organization. Which person would you prefer to work with, and which person do you think is more desirable from a leadership standpoint? Character trumps competence every time, and the reason has to do with trust. If a person has a misstep in competence, trust is more easily rebuilt because one has hopefully developed a solid track record of performance. Whereas if there's a misstep in character, this is an infraction on a more personal level. Here's another way to look at it. Think of trust as a huge oak tree. We all know that when there is a large crown of tree branches, there is an equally large and extensive root system beneath the ground. This root system is essential to keeping the tree nourished, alive, and upright in strong winds. Think of competence as the branches you can see. These are the skills, results, and capabilities that are visible in your team and what your team can see in you. What we cannot see, however, are the roots underneath or the character within. This is your buddies or your integrity, internal motivation, and core values. What bridges one's character to their competence, or in this case, the trunk of the tree that bridges the roots to the branches, is intent. This visual becomes important when you experience a misstep in trust. If someone makes a mistake, what was their intention? You can see the branches, you know something is wrong, but where did the mistake originate? Was it an honest mistake from a new graduate that just hasn't learned the proper policy yet? Or was it an intentional mistake from someone who either didn't care, was too lazy, or thinks the policy is stupid? Just like the root system is essential to keeping the tree upright in strong winds, a person's character is a constant in ensuring trust in all relationships, particularly when a relationship faces challenges and things get tough. So if character is essential, how can one go about developing their character? It really boils down to your core values. A core value is defined as a principle that guides one's internal conduct, as well as their relationships with the external world. Your core values should be non-negotiable, those things that you believe in so strongly they make you who you are. Core values are your anchors. They ground you and hold you steady when times get tough. They really are your friends because they're a constant support, providing you with reassurance at all times. You can use your core values as a North Star. They will guide your decisions and help you find comfort when you don't know what else to do. It can be a breath of fresh air to help blow away the distractions of life and providing refreshing encouragement when you need it most. I love this quote from Helen Keller. Character cannot be developed in the ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, vision cleared, ambition inspired, and success achieved. This really does describe what many call the school of hard knocks. There is no doubt that some of the core values we develop are because we've been placed in significant situations that have required us to learn skills that are often the hardest to learn, but they are the lessons that last a lifetime. While this woman probably thought the sign that read, "Do not feed the monkeys," was merely a suggestion, she's probably learned to be more attentive to rules the next time she encounters one. To further understand trust and its impact on us and our relationships, let's take a look at what neuroscience says about trust. According to the Center for Neural Decision Making at the Fox School of Business, Temple University in Philadelphia, trust and distrust have two different addresses in the brain. Distrust lives within the primitive part of the brain, or the amygdala, and trust lives in the prefrontal cortex, also called the executive brain. This area in between, called the midbrain or limbic system, is where our memories are stored and therefore our feelings. We all know that humans are hardwired from thousands of years of threat stimulus for an automatic fight or flight response. This means that our primitive selves, 1,000 years ago, required a significant change in our body chemistry to respond quickly to real and immediate danger. Because of that hardwiring, our brains today still automatically register each stimulus in the primitive part of our brain, which naturally leans us in the direction of distrust. And even in spite of 1,000 years of evolution, our brains still signal the release of hormones, causing us to react in a fight or flight manner. These hormones that are signaled first are the stress hormones of the amygdala. Cortisol, which has a half-life of 66 minutes with a normal stress load, can increase to 120 minutes if the load is more significant. This means that under significant stress, it will take up to 2 hours for cortisol to peak and then begin to decline. But do we have the luxury of only one stressor per day? No. Often we experience one stressor after another, which only tends to build upon the cortisol level already in place, causing a higher arch after arch of cortisol releases that build levels higher and higher in our system. Is it any wonder that we find it hard to sleep after a particularly stressful day? In addition to cortisol are the hormones norepinephrine, which is responsible for fear and panic, and testosterone that we know is responsible for aggression and irritation. This is the brain's first reaction. But what if the stimulus is not perceived as a threat? What happens in our brain if we see someone we love, or if a coworker brings home-baked cookies for the team? Our brain will then activate the prefrontal cortex and register the stimulus as trustworthy. This stimulates the production of hormones such as oxytocin, described as the cuddle hormone, because it is the same one produced when are lovingly held by our mothers at birth. Dopamine and serotonin are the feel-good hormones, while endorphins can create a longer-lasting sense of well-being. This understanding of hormonal changes in the body is important to know when you consider our conversations, because conversations take place at a chemical level first, and these chemical changes are the first to be registered in the body. When you are in conversation with somebody, remember, it's the primitive part of the brain that kicks in first. I find it very interesting how quick a judgment can be made, 0.7 seconds. Based upon this very quick judgment, our brain will then begin the stimulation of either stress or feel-good hormones. All the physical changes associated with these chemicals will then begin to have an impact on your body. Your heart rate changes, your body temperature changes, and if the chemical is cortisol, your blood will begin to rush to your extremities so that you're ready for fight or flight. It can take up to 2 full seconds before you're even able to develop an understanding of the words being said or be able to form words yourself to create understanding. This is why nonverbal cues can be very critical in every interaction. So what happens in this gap that develops between the primitive part of the brain until the conversation can be registered in the executive brain? It bumps around in your limbic system where your memories are stored. It is from these memories where you will tell yourself a story to help you reconcile the discrepancy of what you hear and feel, trying to create understanding. These stories may have absolutely nothing to do with the facts, but because it triggered a memory within you that may be either good or bad, these are the emotions that you will feel and then cause your action or reaction. This happens to all of us in many of our interactions. Because these gaps occur and we are telling ourselves stories that create or increase misunderstanding, our good judgment often gives way to defensive, aggressive, or passive-aggressive behaviors that have a huge impact on our ability to be effective in our jobs or be mindfully present in our relationships. The antidote? Get a handle on your stories. Do your best to respond only to the facts or ask questions to increase clarity. Here are 13 behaviors that build trust as identified in Covey's book. I think most of them speak for themselves, and we all realize that being committed to the truth will help inspire behaviors such as talking straight and confronting reality, while a commitment to open communication will inspire behaviors such as clarity, clarifying expectations, creating transparency, and listen first. But I also invite all of you to consider what is called a culture of accountability, which is a commitment that develops behaviors such as confronting reality, righting wrongs, keeping commitments, showing loyalty, delivering results, and a constant drive for getting better. And certainly extending trust to others is the fastest way to build empowerment and therefore trust in all relationships. This is why I believe it's wrong to say trust must be earned. Instead, I believe trust is automatic. It is a given. It is baseline. You must have trust in order to build trust while also being mindful when trust is broken on how to rebuild. Here is an example of how you can utilize several of the behaviors in order to rebuild trust that has been broken due to a mistake or a misunderstanding. Whether this is an error in competence or character, here is an example of how you can hold yourself accountable to the part you played in the situation and begin rebuilding trust. It is not a matter of blame or who is at fault. It is about understanding the part you played and the desire to move forward. Warren Buffett said it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. These are wise words to remember when you think about trust accounts. Everyone is like a bank account. You can either make deposits or you can make trust withdrawals. It is important to know that what one person may see as a trust deposit may actually be a withdrawal for another person. Take, for example, how you deliver praise. In my team, I thought I was doing a good thing by responding to emails sent out to the group regarding tasks completed. Sally would send out an email to all the techs asking that troponins be calibrated within the next 24 hours. Dave would respond to the original email that he got the calibrations completed during second shift. I would then send out a response, "Way to go, Dave! Thanks for the great teamwork." It was then brought to my attention that many of the techs saw this as a withdrawal in their trust accounts because this was just Dave's job. And what they do is a lot of things that are part of their jobs and they never receive recognition for them. This was valuable feedback, for I now praise individually and am more mindful of the many things that everyone does daily in their jobs. Also know that a withdrawal can be a bigger hit to the account than a deposit. For this reason, sometimes the fastest way to build trust is to just stop making withdrawals. I'm sure we all know the words we choose when in a conversation can have a significant impact in our relationships and often underlay our intentions. However, we can all get caught up in the stories we tell ourselves, which causes our emotions and actions. Sometimes we say things we regret. So it's just a good reminder to know that a single word can either trigger trust or distrust in another individual. These are the communication skills that encourage trust. They are provided from a book, Conversational Intelligence, written by Judith Glaser. What I like about these is that they really instruct us to be plugged into the other person, watching how they respond so you can sense their fear and be more transparent, connect and engage to build a relationship, talk openly to develop greater understanding, shift your mindset away from being right so you can identify and share the successes, and then, of course, always being committed to the truth. I often say that as long as you have developed a trustworthy relationship with someone, you can talk about anything. And everyone wants to hear the truth, even if it might be painful in the moment. We would not be able to engage in the communication skills presented on the previous slide unless we were practicing intuitive listening. Most of you have probably heard of both subjective and objective listening, but intuitive listening really invites us to engage in all of the senses to create a deeper connection with the other person. It is this deep connection that fosters trust and creates shared meaning. Finally, I want to talk about laughter and how important it is in trust in our relationships. Laboratory medicine is serious business, but that does not mean that we have to take ourselves too seriously. I believe that the root of many of our misunderstandings is because we get too wrapped up in the seriousness and forget that we are all humans. I love this quote by Mark Twain. The human race has only one really effective weapon, and that is laughter. The moment it arises, all of our hardnesses yield, all our irritations and resentments slip away, and a sunny spirit takes its place. Another quote I love is, "Angels fly because they take themselves lightly." There are many benefits with lightness, laughter, and fun in the workplace. It really does increase productivity, and when tensions run high or there is an increased stress in the team, having fun allows all of us a healthier way in which to work out these issues. Fun activities break down barriers between both people and departments, which is why it is always a great idea to include other professionals in your festivities during Medical Laboratory Professionals Week or other events such as blood drives or safety huddles. Showcasing the importance of the lab and the impactful contribution we make to patient care can be done in a fun and engaging way that helps develop those meaningful relationships both inside and outside of the department. So this concludes my presentation on trust, what it is, how it impacts everything, and how to rebuild. I enjoyed my time with you today and hope this has been helpful information. Holding myself accountable, here are a review of our objectives today. I think we adequately covered everything. Please come back and visit my website, www.thelableadercoach.com, as I frequently add new videos and additional information that I am certain you will find useful in your leadership journey. As always, you can reach out to me personally by email at patty@thelableadercoach.com or visit my Facebook page. If you provide me with your email address or like my Facebook page, you will be the first to receive valuable checkoff list, leadership material of proven strategies, and invitations to free webinars that are sure to increase your confidence and success as a laboratory leader. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Best of luck in your leadership journey. Bye-bye now.